My name is Alta. Welcome to Alta's Oyster. I'm going to be reviewing the Barbie movie today, and I am totally wearing a Barbie shirt, black Barbies, but you can't see it. And I'm not even going to bother. Just know I'm wearing a black Barbie shirt that I think I bought from Fashion Nova last year or something like that. Anyways, so I've seen the Barbie movie twice, and I absolutely loved it. I saw it when it first came out in early August, and then I saw it 2 weeks ago now already with a friend when I was visiting her. Well, we both took a vacation to Virginia, to Richmond, and loved it even more. She loved it. As you can see by the title of this video, I think the Barbie movie made good decisions all around. The stories that it chose to tell, and that story's plural, right? Because we have Barbie's story, we have Ken's story, which is absolutely terrific, and we have, I did not look up, hold on, let me look up her character's name real quick, because I cannot go through this entire review calling her America Ferrera. Her character has a name. When you Google Barbie movie characters, America's not even like, and you go to characters, she's not even on like the first 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters. So this is taking me a while. Let's see. What is America Ferrera's character's name? All these people are getting billed before her, which is surprising. These are all the damn Barbies. Oh my god, why is this difficult? It should not be this difficult. Gloria. Her name is Gloria. Jesus Christ. And her daughter is Sasha, I guess. Anyways, God, that took way too long. I'm kind of disappointed. But anyways, yeah, so I think, so there was Barbie's story, Ken's story, Gloria's story, and a little bit of her daughter, Sasha's story. And then there's, of course, the I guess messaging in the movie, I guess, is also a story within itself. So let me start with Barbie's storyline. So Barbie's storyline was all about, well, started with perfection, right? So she's living in a perfect world. She has high expectations that she saved the world. Like, her and the Barbies fix things for women just by existing, just by being themselves. Although not really their full selves, more like a two-dimensional version of themselves where everything's perfect. They live in a matriarchal society, which I'll expand on and talk more about as I go through this. But, it was perfection, and then all of a sudden she starts having thoughts of death. And she doesn't know where it's coming from, but that wandering, that original thought, because no one in that world, as it existed when we first met all of the characters, has had an original thought. But just the introduction of an original thought starts messing everything up. Her heels come down, the toast is burnt, things are falling apart, and she's falling from her house, from her dream house. So I think the journey that Barbie went on was absolutely perfect. No pun intended. I think they did a terrific job of slowly introducing these elements to her, from like the introduction of the original thought, the fighting, what that might mean, what it would take for her to fix it and go back to normal, which is for her to go into the real world wearing these ugly sandals and find out and fix everything. And she goes in with high hopes that, at the end of it all, she's going to get rid of the cellulite and go back to life as she knows it. And then she comes into our world, and it's not what she expected at all. One of the things I want to call out that I think was amazing and didn't occur to me until later, like weeks later, or maybe even the second time that I saw it, was when Barbie and Ken got out into the real world, and she saw the billboard with the pageant women and said, "The Supreme Court." And the theater laughed when I went to see it that Thursday, I think, that it premiered. The theater laughed, I laughed. And then after that, I was like, but the comedy, like the commentary isn't, why did we laugh? Why did we laugh? And we laughed because the thought of pageant queens, pageant contestants being on the Supreme Court is freaking hilarious. Why is it freaking hilarious? Because of all of our stereotypes that we have about pageant queens, which of course doesn't come from a vacuum. It comes from the patriarchal society that we live in. So pageant queens, get by on their looks. They're stupid. And there you go. They get by on their looks and they're stupid. So the thought of them rising to the highest and serving on the highest court in the land is absolutely absurd and hilarious. But then when you think about it from Barbie's point of view, you ask yourself, why not? Why not? It actually is possible in our world. It's unthinkable, but possible in our world that someone who was once a pageant queen could enter into politics. Do something more, and I'm saying do something more, which might be a little problematic, but do something more than be ambassador of whatever. Get into politics, work their way up, and eventually serve on the Supreme Court. That is actually possible. We have never seen it before, but it's possible. We've had on the man side of thing, an actor became president of the United States. Who'd have think it? And a reality TV show host also became president of the United States. And so it's like, with those two examples, why is it so freaking hilarious that a pageant queen could, serve on the Supreme Court? So I just interrogated that a little bit after seeing it the second time. I was like, I laughed and just took it as straight up comedy. But it's like, what are we laughing at? The thought of them eventually serving the Supreme Court, that's actually not super wild. Impossible. I mean, they would get dragged, by mainstream media, and I'm sure a lot of misogyny would come out, but it's actually not a ridiculous thought, So I wanted to call attention to that. So, Barbie's out in the real world and she's starting to feel icky because, these men are objectifying her and just stripping her of her personhood by just the way they look at her and just the way they're interacting with her. They're talking at her and not engaging her at all. And it's so interesting. She goes to the construction workers and she's like, if a woman can't just hang out with a bunch of construction workers, where can she hang out? Which, I don't know, just the thought of how safe her world was. Mind you, bland. Barbie the movie didn't tackle everything, but I feel like they didn't have to. Sometimes, I'm a Black woman, so, I consume media as a Black woman. Like, my identity does not go away when I'm watching movies. But sometimes I don't need, white media to talk about everything. I would prefer on a grand scale, big picture, just let Black people tell our own stories, our own point of views. Because so often they get it damn wrong. Same thing for when it comes to white women talking about what they care about in terms of their feminism. Let them, instead of having the white men in charge do it, because they so often get it wrong. See Captain Marvel, or She-Hulk. Just let the white women in the room, and hopefully they won't insult women of color as they're trying to get their white feminism, on. Hopefully they won't do white feminism. But yeah, Barbie didn't tackle everything. I saw someone refer to it as plastic feminism or something like that, which I think is a little much. But for example, aside from Dr. Barbie, the light-skinned girl, the wig on Issa Rae was, quite frankly, atrocious. Why couldn't President Barbie rock natural hair? You know what I mean? And just the world that Barbie existed in, that matriarchal society, it was, of course, very whitewashed. It was very much it wasn't a neutral matriarchal society. Like, I think it was very white coded, in my opinion. But Barbie eventually develops anxiety, or very quickly develops anxiety. And what I picked up from that was what can happen to you when the pressure to solve everything, be everything, becomes too much. Like, when you become aware of that pressure to be the perfect woman, exactly what America Ferrera, or Gloria, her monologue, which was perfect, what it was about. And I like that. Well, let me not get ahead of myself, but essentially when you become aware of the pressure, instead of being, living in La La Land or Barbie Land like Barbie was, it gives you anxiety. It makes you question yourself. It makes you question your worth. And I enjoyed that too. Skipping ahead, I'm gonna probably be jumping all over the place because I'm not doing it scene by scene. I'm doing it kind of character by character. But what it took to fix Barbie and all the other Barbies, which is to point out the contradiction in what's expected of women. And of course, even the breakdown of that was great, but I can imagine that breakdown would look different if it was written by, let's say, like a Black woman or something like that. I don't know who, I think Greta wrote this movie, but being aware of the contradiction as being the way to free yourself from the chokehold of patriarchy, just chef's kiss. That being the solution, because it is the solution in real life. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, because as Weird Barbie said, it's either you keep your eyes closed and remain perfect, or open your eyes and be labeled weird. She said it in a different way, but that was the heart of what she said. Either ignore everything and remain perfect, or, on the outside, because Barbie would have looked, well, not even on the outside, because she had cellulite. Or, acknowledge the contradictions and what doesn't make sense and be labeled weird. And that is exactly how it plays out in the real world. So that's it for, not it, but like, that's the crux of Barbie's story. I want to move on to Ken's story, right? I'll move on to Ken's story next. I think this is the first movie I've ever watched, and I haven't watched every movie. I think this is the first movie I've ever watched where the message for men, where the message of you don't need a relationship to validate you, was for a man. That message in media and story, the books, the movies, is usually aimed at women. Even as we get told that, like, we need a relationship, a straight relationship especially, we need a relationship to complete us. I think it's very important for men and boys to also be told you don't need a relationship to validate you, because men, as little boys, are also told that, like, one way you are a man is to have a woman, is to, be in a relationship so that you can be the head of household, so you can be the leader and she can be submissive. Like, they get that negative messaging and it's directly tied into their manhood. And so I think it was so fantastic that the big lesson for his arc led to, it's Ken. And I did not go into this movie expecting Ken to be the villain or the antagonist, but I think it was so perfect that he was. I enjoyed his arc immensely. I think this is a movie for men too. And as you get to know me, that's no surprise. Like, I think it's a movie for men too. I don't like the idea, especially when it comes to kids, that like, the Little Mermaid, Barbie, that's not for boys. I'm only gonna take my daughter to that. Like, I feel like it subconsciously that's where it starts, that subconscious programming that, like, if women are leading, if women have the spotlight, you don't need to see it, boys. You can ignore it because it's inherently not valuable to you because you're a boy. There are women, it's inherently not valuable to you. You could pay attention to something else, So I don't like that message. So I think this movie is a movie for young boys and as well as for young girls. I loved the twist earlier in the movie because I went into this movie. I saw a TikTok before this movie came out from this guy that was like, who is the audience for this movie? Is it me? Is it women? Like, well, who is the audience? I don't know, but I'm gonna be right there, to see it because I'm interested. And I thought the audience for this movie was going to be little girls. It's Barbie. I figured it's for little girls. And of course, women will enjoy it. It's Barbie. The fact that the main character, like Barbie's counterpart, because I thought it was going to give Life Size, the Tyra Banks movie with Lindsay Lohan. But the fact that the Barbie's counterpart ended up being an adult woman who used to play with Barbie was a smart decision. For them, because then you got the millennials, the Gen Xers, Gen Z. Are they like, I don't know how old the oldest Gen Z person is now, but even the baby boomers, like you get everyone. If you get more people if you make Barbie's counterpart, the woman who used to play with Barbie and grew up and was thrust into the real world and was affected by all the expectations that the world has on women. Your audience is then so much bigger. Your female audience is then so much bigger. So, really enjoyed that. Like, this movie just made good choices all around. I'm telling you, good decisions all around. So, back to Ken. An identity crafted around your relationship is not an identity. And it's not Ken's fault that was his original identity because, like he said, it's Barbie and Ken. Like, who am I without you? Like, I am your appendage. We are supposed to be together. Why are we not together? So, I had a thought after the first movie, after I saw it the first time, when Barbie was getting kidnapped by the Mattel dudes, I was like, after the movie, I was like, and Ken didn't even try to help. Like, but then I thought about it some more, and I'm like, in Ken's world, there's no such thing as men being dangerous to women. Like, he felt a little uneasy. Like, his gut was like, But then his conditioning from Barbie Land was like, but it's Mattel. Like, you don't got to worry about Mattel. And I don't know. I just imagine, like, a man not worrying about a woman's safety, not because he's all like, that ain't my business, but more like he doesn't know what it is for a woman to feel unsafe in the presence of even multiple men. Like, just like Barbie didn't feel any kind of way. She was like, oh, Mattel, He was like, yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine. So I noticed that stuck out to me. Let's also talk about the fact that Ken's idea, what Ken takes from patriarchy is as shallow as patriarchy itself. Come on. What Ken takes from patriarchy is as shallow as patriarchy itself. Now, patriarchy being shallow doesn't mean it's not freaking dangerous or that it's not effective or any of that. But it's like, he comes here and all he sees, like, men are in charge. And of course it's like in your face patriarchy too, right? Because like these shows love that, like in your face patriarchy. So Barbie getting whistled at, and the man like silencing the woman, like, not now, which they played that as, it's a man's world, but that guy is probably also just rude, but I'm sure he's encouraged by our society. But he sees horses, men on horses, and men at the gym, and like fist bumping or whatever, and he's like, this is patriarchy. And then he takes that, brings it to Barbie Land, and just changes it to Ken Land, and his version of patriarchy and Ken World, or whatever he called it, his version of patriarchy is horses, taking the women's property, and having the women be subservient and agreeable. Even when that Barbie says, the Dr. Barbie says, it feels so good to not think all the time, is patriarchal. That is men's idea of what women benefit from in the patriarchy. Because who wants to think all the time? Now, mind you, being responsible for things, being president and all that stuff is hard and stressful and difficult, but that doesn't mean that the women don't want to do it or want to give up their autonomy or want to give up decision making. Like, that comment is a patriarchal, misogynist, sexist man's fantasy. That's a fantasy sentence, in the patriarchy. I also find it funny and telling, because let's be real. Let's break it down to the most basic thing. What Ken needed was a conversation with Barbie. That is what he needed. He just needed to ask Barbie why. He just needed to profess his feelings, profess his expectation, ask her, why don't you feel this way? I feel like you're kind of leading me on. I feel like you're being mean to me. Like, that comment about it's always girls' night, like this is my house, was hurtful. He just needed to speak and share his feelings. Instead, he goes to the real world, brings back another societal structure, destroys the one from his home, and like steals homes and property, changes the female population. Like, he does this whole thing instead of having a conversation. If they had therapists, I'm sure they do. Instead of going to therapy, he destroyed, like, ruined his home. And shout out, I want to say, to Alan, the good guy, the nice guy, who didn't have to say he's a nice guy or even be pointed out as a nice guy. They just had Alan existing as a, not foil is not the word, or maybe it is, but just like as a something to compare the Kens to, right? He's not concerned about his body. He would like to be friends with them, but is not really desperate to be friends with them. He's just there existing. He loves the matriarchy. As soon as things changed and it became a bros world, he was like, I gotta get the hell out of here because this ain't it. Like, this ain't it. So shout out to Alan, the nice guy, the good guy, who, I love that they didn't point that out or make it a thing. But as you think about it, if you look closely, he is the good guy. Both in the matriarchal society and in the patriarchy. Back to Ken. So I said he brings back the most shallow version, like a shallow version of the patriarchy, which I will get to how patriarchy is how men are depicted in the patriarchy in the real world, because they're also depicted two-dimensionally, which is not a problem. I do not have a problem with how any man was depicted in this movie. But Ken brings back a shallow version of the patriarchy. And you know what makes it the most shallow, like the most shining example of how shallow it is that he doesn't change the Constitution. He doesn't enshrine it and make it systemic. He instead is just, again, driven by his feelings, the feelings that he's not voicing. He's driven by pettiness and revenge and hurt, and just focuses on the shallow stuff, right? Like, the women are in charge, we have their house, materialistic stuff. They're serving us, and they're so, like, enthralled by us. It's like, it's funny because it's like, I'm thinking about now also the fact that, like, these men get a little bit of power. I'm thinking about black people. These men get a little bit of power, and the first thing they want to do is take away power from the women. Not like, hey, I learned about this stuff. I saw male doctors and all that stuff. Can we get a little bit of that? They're like, nah, we're just going to, like, impose ours and take your rights and positions away completely. But he didn't enshrine it. He did not make patriarchy systemic. He did not change the Constitution. They left that for later. They just focused on the parties and the beer and the guitar and all that stuff. So that stood out to me. Yeah, so in terms of going along with the not changing the Constitution, again, Ken, when he takes over, is not concerned with making things better for men. I don't think any of the political positions that the women held were filled. Like, that wasn't gonna happen until after they voted. Like, they didn't occupy any of the real positions or any of the positions that required work. They just focused on having the women be subservient, which is very telling and nicely played. This is, driven by his heartbreak which he was willing to put up with until he discovers patriarchy and realizes that he can add entitlement to his list of feelings. So let me go back to how men are depicted in the patriarchy in the real world. They are vapid, even more vapid than the because the most three-dimensional characters in the movie are the Barbies and Barbie Land, and also Gloria and her daughter Sasha. But the men are vapid. Will Ferrell was fantastic, but they're in their suits, they're in the boardroom, and you don't see them really being smart or really showing why they're in the positions that they are. They're very vapid. And even the guys who are downstairs answering the phones or whatever are also bland and two-dimensional. So just wanted to point that out. Enjoyed that aspect as well. I think this movie was terrific. I enjoyed the dance numbers. I enjoyed the songs. I'm just Ken. Enjoyed the songs. I enjoyed the various messages. I enjoyed every single character in this movie. I don't think they failed on any front. I enjoyed the set. I enjoyed the breaking of the fourth wall with the narrator. And with the narrator being like, note to the producers or the directors or whatever, like, if you're gonna have like the character call themselves ugly, like, you may not want to hire Margot Robbie. Loved it. And then the, Barbie-esque effects, the car flipping and, the clothes being displayed. It was a terrific movie, like, so well done, so well played. The part where Barbie chooses to become human, which of course she chooses to become human, made me emotional. But again, watching this as a Black woman, like, again, we get to that, like, white coded, because, Barbie's white. It was the thing for white girls. And then they included more representation. But, like, when she's shown the montage of happiness and Ruth, I think, the Ruth character says, "One day you'll die." And I'm like, that's the biggest hesitation. Imagine a Black Barbie being like, "I want to be human." Then the Ruth character would have to be like, "Are you sure? Because there's racism." Like, it's racist out here. It's going to be racist out here for you, Black Barbie. You sure you don't want to, be in Barbie Land where that doesn't exist? So, yeah, made me emotional. I love the ending because, Barbie's in the real world. You think she's about to, go in for her first day at Mattel. And then she's like, "I'm here for my gynecological appointment." And she's so happy about it. But, like, I'm sure the women and the cis women in the audience are like, "Girl, that speculum is going to turn you out, literally." Perfect. That's my review for the Barbie movie. Barbie is, surprise, surprise, perfect. Even though the lesson was, one of the lessons was for her, that perfection, for her to get away from perfection. Oh, I also enjoyed the line that, it's so funny because when everything is resolved, Ken is going to go on a path to be an individual. Again, lovely message for the boys. It's the women who give the Kens a political appointment, a job. Ken didn't do that when he was ruling in the patriarchy. He didn't give them rights. He gave them power, but nothing systemic. But the line of, like, maybe one day the Kens will have as much power as women do in the real world. I'm like, oh, the irony. It was a great movie, and it's taking me a long time to review it, but enjoyed it. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it yet. It's still in theaters. And that's it. I plan to go see Blue Beetle. If you're not following me on TikTok, like, if you happen to see this and you're like, "Oh, Alto's Oyster," I'm also Alto's Oyster on TikTok. And I have more movie reviews there. But I'm going to start posting them on here. I know that my videos that I've posted lately, because I'm like, putting some life into this channel again. The orientation of these videos have been all over the place. Like I have some that are horizontal, like YouTube prefers, and then I have some that are vertical because clearly I shot them on TikTok, for TikTok first, and then posted them here. But I'm planning to, after some soul searching and a conversation with my sister, post my movie reviews primarily here on YouTube and post them, horizontally, and then also sometimes perhaps on TikTok. So as far as movie or show reviews that are coming up that are on my to watch list, Blue Beetle is out now. I'm gonna go see that and review it here. I also need to watch They Clone Tyrone on Netflix and review it here. I didn't think of a list before this, but there are other movies. On Netflix, Survival of the Thickest. I want to see that because I heard it's really good. I also need to review Queen Charlotte, the series. I am almost done with it. I only have 20 minutes left. Sometimes, guys, I'm not in high school anymore. Like, I'm not a super fast watcher of things. So I haven't, I'm not done with Queen Charlotte yet, but I'm almost done. And as soon as I finish it, the last episode, I will also review that. So we've got Blue Beetle coming up. They Clone Tyrone, Survival of the Thickest, Queen Charlotte, that's 4, and probably some more. So yeah, follow me on TikTok, Alta's Oyster. You'll see I have the Woman King, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That's on my TikTok. Of course, too long for YouTube Shorts, but that's on my TikTok. I watch Glass Knives, the second one. That's on my TikTok as well. Black Adam, a whole lot on my TikTok. So movies, TV, travel, those are my loves. Those are the things I'll be talking about on this channel. That's what I talk about on my TikTok, as well as some other stuff. So stick around, like this video, share it, hit subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know in the comments how you felt about Barbie. Bye! I forgot to say a word about the writer's strike before I go. The writer's strike, the actor's strike, the SAG-AFTRA strike. I fully support the writers and the actors, especially like after having watched Barbie. I'm like, people brought us this. The writers, the actors, like they gave us this beautiful movie. Pay them, people. Pay them. Like pay them for their literally enduring creativity, because once it's recorded and shared, it endures. Generations later, people will be falling in love with Barbie because of the writers, because the writers' talent, because of the actors. Pay these damn people what they're worth. Y'all got the money. You're just greedy as hell. Like, they're talking about this AI stuff, which, like, it's the first bit of technology that has creeped me out. Like, sometimes I feel old. But I'm like, AI creeps me out with how it could potentially be misused. Like, AI is not going to give us this. Sorry, but it's not. It's not. Like, it's never... I feel comfortable in saying never. Because AI is based on, of course, humans, mining human experiences. And I think the human experience moves along too quickly to really be effectively copied and effectively, successfully replicated by AI. So I need them to get it together. Hollywood, the studios need to get it together and pay these people what they're worth. You're making boku money off of streaming and have been. It is not unfair or outrageous or crazy for the people who are actually producing this stuff and actually working on it and actually making it happen, the writers, the actors, and all, to want to be compensated from what they're producing. Like, it's not crazy. So pay them, people. I fully support them and the strike, because I want more of this stuff. Like, I want more human stories, human interpretation of the human experience, not AI mining and cobbling together bits and pieces from what is found across the internet and trying to regurgitate it. And just pay them, people, please. I hope, fully on their side. Hope they get exactly what they want, because the studios are bugging. I'm out for real. Bye.